Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. As always, I'm Bryson Carver, and this may or may not be one of the better episodes in the history of Carving It Up. And over the next hour or so, you're going to find out why. I've got a little, I guess the best word I could use is mystery coming up on the show for a lot of people. I'm going to save that for a little later, but I'm going to talk a little bit about Steph Curry, of course, the greatest shooter of all time. He cemented that on Tuesday night in Madison Square Garden. As I said, I hoped he would. I said, don't break the record in Indiana, Steph. I said, hit 3 to 5. He hit 5. He hit 2 in the first quarter at MSG and passed Ray Allen. I'm going to talk about that and just kind of the significance of it. Like, what does it really mean in the grand scheme of things for Steph and for the NBA? I'm going to talk about that, as well as the breaking news that came in about half an hour into today if you're on the East Coast. Urban Meyer out of Jacksonville after only 13 games. Going to talk about that. There's a lot to digest from that. And then the mystery will unfold. But first, I'm going to start with Steph Curry, the greatest shooter of all time. It's not like I'm making some sort of controversial statement when I say that. And that's sort of the genesis of what I'm getting at. But before I even discuss anything about Steph, if for some reason you did not see the play, which I'm sure most people did, but if you did not, here you go. Here's the shot that made history.
Alec Burks guarding him from the start. Wiggins again. Here's Curry for the record. It's good! And there it is! Stephen Curry! The all-time three-point king of the NBA! Three-pointer, number 2974. The man who changed the game. The igniter of the three-point revolution in the NBA. And now he stands alone at the top of the three-point list.
And you think about this. The way he changed the game, it's almost like how Babe Ruth changed baseball with the long ball. He has changed the game with the three-point ball. How all 30 teams approach the game is because of number 30. And this is an absolute awesome experience to be able to witness, to see Ray Allen and now Stephen Curry, and an emotional hug here with his father, Dale Curry.
So to culminate it all, Steph broke the record. He was visibly emotional. They showed the shot on TNT on Tuesday night where he's in tears on the bench. It was an unbelievable moment. And to cap it off, as any classy former great player would, Ray Allen was there, of course, to be there to see Steph break the record, and the two embraced at Ray Allen's, or near Ray Allen's seat on the floor at Madison Square Garden.
What a moment. And here he comes. An embrace with Ray Allen. Ray Allen broke Reggie Miller's record in 2011. It was February 10th. And now Stephen Curry breaks Ray Allen's record. Tuesday, December 14th at Madison Square Garden, a 28-footer. Stephen Curry, the all-time three-point champion here in the NBA.
You know, what struck me, and Steve Kerr hit on this, and this is my last point before I get into my main argument. What struck me, and Steve Kerr talked about after the game, we all knew it was going to be big. This is Steph Curry. This is a guy who's pushing to be a top 10 player in the history of the game, breaking a massive record, right? But to me, what struck me is you had the celebrities there at MSG. You had, obviously, Reggie Miller was calling the game. Ray Allen was there at the game. You had all the spectacle before, during, and after the game against the Knicks, which the Warriors won 105-96. But to me, this is what it ultimately comes down to. Yeah, we know he changed the game, but what does that really mean? What does that mean that somebody changed the game? To me, what it means is, first of all, Steph Curry, nobody argues he's the greatest shooter of all time. But what he doesn't get enough credit for is that Steph Curry is the greatest ever at his skill. He's better at his number one skill than any player in NBA history has been at theirs. And we don't even argue it. Think about this. The greatest rebounders of all time. Obviously, you look at the all-time records and Wilt Chamberlain's number one and Bill Russell's in there. But those who are basketball fans in the late 80s and throughout the 90s will say, well, hey, what about Dennis Rodman? I mean, Dennis Rodman was a monster on the glass, right? You saw in The Last Dance, he was talking about how he'd catch the ball after certain players missed. Like, he was a rebounding genius. But then maybe some of the more old school players will say it's Bill Russell or it's Wilt Chamberlain. How about the greatest passer of all time? Some argue Magic. Some current fans argue LeBron. A few current fans even argue Chris Paul. But John Stockton is number one in assists, a record that may never be broken. So we argue, who's the greatest rebounder ever? Who's the greatest passer ever? How about the greatest defensive player? We got a lot of options there. Hakeem Olajuwon, Dennis Rodman. You got guys like Kevin Garnett, Dikembe Mutombo with the finger wave. A lot of options. We argue. Nobody's like, oh yeah, clearly, like without a shadow of a doubt, Hakeem is. Some think that. Some think he is. He is the best defender. But there's a debate. The greatest ball handler of all time. Steph's in that group. Steph's an unbelievable ball handler. But you can't discount Kyrie Irving and how he can dance on you like nobody's business. Or Allen Iverson, the infamous crossover, stepping over Ty Lue. AI could cross you up. As a rookie, he crossed up Michael Jordan. Okay, that deserves points. Jay crossover, Jamal Crawford. Okay, he's in that discussion. Like, we argue, the best ball handler. The greatest scorer ever. You got a lot of options there. It's probably the second most debated basketball, who's the best at blank, outside of greatest player ever. You've got Michael, you've got Kobe, you've got LeBron, Kareem, Kevin Durant. LeBron, who could very well pass Kareem by the time it's all said and done. Like, there's a lot of options there that nobody's come to a consensus. Yep, that's the greatest scorer of all time. I mean, we really have it. Even greatest player of all time. I'd say the majority of America, the majority of basketball fans, including myself, says Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time. But you can't completely discount LeBron and what he's done in his career. There's a chunk of people, of basketball fans, that say LeBron's the greatest of all time. There's plenty of them. But nobody argues, nobody, about who the greatest shooter of all time is. And it's Steph Curry. He is to shooting the basketball. Heck, he is to basketball, the game of basketball. What Vincent van Gogh was to painting and what Steve Jobs was to technology. He changed it. He changed the way it is operated and it is done. You know, we talk about he changed the way the game is played, but he also changed the way the game is coached and analyzed, etc., etc. And so you think about the impact. This is why I always say the Mount Rushmore of the most impactful players, it's Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, Steph. That don't mean those are the four greatest players, but impact. Steph, I don't think at any point in his career, there was a debate maybe around 2016, but that pretty much got shut down in the finals that year. Please don't remind me. But at no point in Steph's career were we like, yep, that's the best player in the world for a long period of time. It's mostly been LeBron, or now people say it's Kevin. I think Steph's the best player right now, but people say it's Kevin Durant or it's Giannis. There are people out there who still says it's LeBron. But Steph's never been the best player in the world over a long period of time, like a Michael, like a LeBron, like a Magic. And so when you look at just from top to bottom, impact, That's why I always talk about that's why I campaigned for Steph to win Most Valuable Player last year, is because the media forgot about that V word in the middle. You know, V does stand for valuable after all. And as great as Nikola Jokic was, to me, Steph should have won it. And if Chris Paul would have won it, wouldn't have complained in the slightest. Because Chris Paul was more valuable to the Phoenix Suns than Nikola Jokic was to the Denver Nuggets last year. That's not arguable. And so, to me, that's a credit to Steph. It's a credit to a guy who comes into the league out of Davidson. He was a 3-star recruit. His only Power 5 offer was from his dad's alma mater, Virginia Tech, who wanted him to walk on. They wouldn't even offer him a full scholarship. And so he goes to little old Davidson, coached by the great Bob McKillop. Sophomore year, of course, he had the unbelievable NCAA tournament run where he got Davidson all the way, I think, might have gotten to the Elite Eight. It was the Sweet 16 of the Elite Eight. They got way further than they should have in the tournament, and it was all because of Steph. And he comes into the league as the 7th overall pick by the lowly Golden State Warriors. He has a good rookie year. He finishes second full rookie of the year to Tyreek Evans. But then over the next couple of years, it's ankle injury, and then another ankle injury, and then yet another ankle injury, and they just keep falling one after another. And all of a sudden, the debate starts, is Steph Curry the next Grant Hill? Talented, but couldn't stay healthy. You never know what his full potential is. He got his ankles fixed, had a great year in 2013, was an all-star the very next year. In the following 2 years after that, he won 2 MVPs, including, as I've reminded people many times on the show, the second of those MVPs was unanimous, which hasn't been done before and has not been done since. Impact, value, change the game. That's how you describe Steph Curry. And so when I look at what that moment meant, and Reggie Miller talked about it, you heard in that soundbite there, Reggie Miller said it's like how Babe Ruth changed baseball with the home run. You look at those numbers from back in the day, it was like, Babe Ruth was hitting like in the double digits and then some more than his contemporaries in the early 20th century. It's like nobody can compete with this guy. You know, Jalen Rose last night when they were talking about Steph, he threw out a very shocking, it was stunning to me. He said Steph Curry in his career 37 times had made 9 or more threes in a game. 37 times. The two guys right behind him, the great Ray Allen and the great Reggie Miller, never did it once. Now, as Ray pointed out, I heard in the Dan Patrick show over the weekend, some of that is Steph takes more threes than Ray or Reggie could have in their specific eras. But why do you think people are taking more threes now? Steph's not the beneficiary. He's the one who created the trend. He's not the beneficiary of the trend. He created it. And so that's what made Tuesday night so special. I tweeted. I said, I've never teared up during a record-breaking moment in sports. And I haven't seen a ton, obviously, Hank Aaron's record-breaking home run to pass Babe Ruth was nearly 40 years before nearly 30 years before I even existed. And then obviously Emmitt Smith, of course, and he had many other moments beyond that. To me, the only thing that could exceed Steph's record as far as how big the moment would be is if and possibly when LeBron James passes Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the most points scored in NBA history. But to me, that's what makes Steph special. You know, in the entertainment industry, in the singing industry, in my view, without a shadow of a doubt, Whitney Houston is the greatest singer of all time. She's the greatest person to ever record a song. But as great as Whitney was, and God rest her soul, she didn't change singing. All time, LeBron's going to be better than Steph. And I disagree, but some argue that KD's even better than Steph right now and ranks higher than him all time. And Tim Duncan may rank higher than Steph all time, and Magic and Kobe. But that didn't change the way a sport is played, coached, and analyzed. So that's what made the moment so big. And credit to the fans at Madison Square Garden. The Knicks have went right back down into the toilet. I thought they would, maybe repeat and get to the playoffs and maybe, just maybe, win a playoff series before getting bounced by one of the contenders in the second round. But the Knicks are right back down in the toilet, pretty much where they've been for the better part of the last 2-3 decades. But credit to the fans at MSG. Those fans know great basketball when they see it. There was a lot of Warriors fans there, don't get me wrong, but there's a reason when you see the videos on social media of fans that were actually there at the arena, why everybody rose to their feet to acknowledge what this moment meant. You saw it amidst Steph. He was getting emotional. Obviously, he hugged his dad, Dell. And when he checked out of the game, probably 5-10 minutes later, he hugged his mom, Sonia. It was a great moment for the whole Curry family. It was a great moment for the game of basketball. And it will go down as one of the greater regular season moments, I believe, in NBA history. Steph's going to get to 3,000 threes, which, of course, he's now the record holder, so that's never been done. A good possibility, if he keeps playing the way he's playing, he'll get to 4,000. His trainer, Brandon Payne, said, why not 5,000? Now, I don't know, but who am I to doubt Steph after what he's overcome in his life and in his career? It's amazing. Not to mention that he's a great dude. I think that factors in as well. Steph Curry is an amazing human being. He's charitable. He's a great family man. He's a great teammate. I mean, how many superstars, after winning back-to-back MVPs and going to back-to-back finals, winning one, would say, hey, that guy is just as good, if not better, maybe slightly not as good as I am. He can join us. I'm willing to sit in the passenger seat and give you the keys, talking about Kevin Durant, so that I can win more championships. Because Steph, this is what part of it makes him great too. Self-awareness. And I'm about to talk about an individual that has none of it. Urban Meyer. But Steph has an unbelievable sense of self-awareness. Because he looks around. When we talk about Charles Barkley, John Stockton, Karl Malone, Gary Payton, most of those 90s players, but when we talk about those guys, Chris Paul even, we're like, man, they were great. Where's the rings? In some way, fair or unfair, it somewhat diminishes their legacy. Now, Steph had one, but he's like, let's push this thing. Because if I'm really about winning, if I'm actually about winning, and he's available, and he may want to come join us, talking about KD, why on earth would I say no? A lot of superstars would have said no. Russell Westbrook, Derrick Rose. Heck, maybe KD himself would have said no if he were in the same position. But that's part of what makes Steph the great player that he is. It was an unbelievable moment on Tuesday night. It'll be a moment that'll be etched in all of our minds as NBA fans. Kudos, Steph. You've earned it. You deserve it. Now let's keep pushing this thing. Got a comment here from my man, John Rivera from the Fan Perspective Podcast. Shout out to him. He says, great overall guy. I mean, that's the thing. Steph, I always talk about the group of people that if you dislike them, then you're the problem. I think Steph's one of those guys. Maybe you don't necessarily love him like on the court. Maybe you don't like the shimmying or whatnot. I mean, of course, I love it. You know, Steph is the reason that I even started watching the game of basketball around 2013. But you can't say he's a first-class dude. He's a good dude. Like off the court, you can't dislike Steph. He's relatable. That's something else about Steph too. He's relatable. He looks like the neighbor across the street. Like that's what we see often in politics and entertainment. Oftentimes the most successful and beloved people are those that are relatable. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being the most handsome and the most beautiful person in the room, but people can't necessarily relate to you. But a guy like Steph, tall, I mean, compared to the average human, he's a tall guy, 6'2", 6'3" in shoes, but looks like a normal guy. He's got a wife, got kids. I mean, that's what adds to the legend of Steph Curry, and it was an unbelievable moment on Tuesday night against the Knicks at Madison Square Garden. And Steph can now push the record as far as he so chooses. But it will be fun, without a doubt, to see how it turns out. The mystery of carving it up, at least of today's episode of Carving It Up, is coming soon. You do not want to miss it. It is coming probably in the next 10 to 15 minutes or so, more or less. But I promise you guys do not want to miss it. But before we even get to that mystery, let's talk a little bit about Urban Meyer. This is great. So we hear Urban Meyer, as I have a comment here. Darren Campbell, shout out to Darren Campbell. He says, "I sure am excited for your mystery guest. You're gonna enjoy this. You're gonna enjoy everything that goes on. I promise. I can promise you that. I can promise you that. It's a mystery. I will say this much: it's a mystery for everybody involved. Let's put it that way. All right. So Urban Meyer, former coach at Utah, then went to the Florida Gators, then went to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Left after the 2018 season due to health issues. Was at Fox Sports as a college football analyst for a couple of years. And was subsequently hired in early 2021, by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, 11 months later, he's no longer the head coach. So that didn't even take a calendar year. He was in and he was out. From the beginning, this was a disaster. There's nothing more, nothing less, a complete disaster for a multitude of reasons. Number one, right off the bat, he gets hired. He's putting his staff together. More on that in a second. He's putting his staff together. And he wants to hire Iowa's former strength and conditioning coach. Now, on the surface, that's not even a story. You're like, okay, he's hiring a strength and conditioning coach, except for the fact that that particular coach had multiple allegations by players of bullying and of racism. So as I said on the show going to January, and I will say it 11 months later, there's a lot of strength and conditioning coaches, a lot of really good ones, a lot of great ones. Why would you hire the guy that had those two labels, bully and racist, attached to his name? Of all the guys, of all the guys you could have hired, you hired that guy. Okay, so that's strike one, and he fired him after the backlash of that hiring. A few months later, he signed a guy by the name, maybe you've heard of him, of Tim Tebow. Now, as I've said on my show, loved him. We talk about Steph Curry, he's a first-class man. So is Tim Tebow. Amazing human being. Not an NFL player. Not an NFL quarterback. And certainly not an NFL tight end. If you would have told me Tim Tebow tight end, I'd have laughed. But for some reason, Urban Meyer, despite the fact that Tim Tebow had not been in the NFL, period, for 6 years, and not been on a regular season roster in 9 years, thought, I'm going to sign Tim Tebow. He's going to be a member of this football team, and he's got a shot to make the team. And it was an absolute complete disaster in that regard, and he was cut after the very first preseason game. Of course, we saw the infamous missed blocks. I believe they played the Cleveland Browns that night in Jacksonville, and Urban didn't have a choice but to cut him. And I'm sure he lost a lot of respect in that locker room. Maybe not the entire locker room, but a good portion of it. You add to the fact that Jacksonville, week 1 to whatever it was, week 4, week 5, started to show a little bit of a steady improvement. Week to week, you're like, okay, they get beat by Houston, but then they're like, okay, you see an improvement every week. Okay, this is a good sign. This is a good sign of maybe he's building a culture here. And they almost beat the Cincinnati Bengals. I actually picked them to beat the Bengals. That was my upset of the week that week. They come that close. Cincinnati wins on a game-winning field goal. And so they're in the state of Ohio. It was a Thursday night game. They don't play till 10 days from that. They don't have to be back in the building by whatever is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the following week. And so Urban says to his players, I'm just going to stay back here, go to Columbus. Of course, he coached there at Ohio State, spend time with family, chill. And players are like, okay, whatever, fine. Yeah, and then some videos and pictures on social media surface, and He wasn't chilling with family. He was chilling somewhere else. He was chilling at the strip club. So he lied. Straight up, he lied to his guys. And reportedly, when he apologized to the team, it was met with laughter. It was in that moment he totally lost the locker room. And then recently, the report came out that he had a meeting with his assistant coaches and had called them losers and said, "What have you ever won before?" The only issue with this, Urban, is that there's a slight little problem. You hired them. So that's kind of hypocritical. If you didn't like that they didn't win a lot, you could have hired someone else who did, but blame game. And you even heard Trevor Lawrence say yesterday, was it yesterday? I think it was the day before, at his media availability, yeah, there's more drama in the NFL than there is in college. What? And then you have the report, I believe it was in the Tampa Bay Times, was it? By Josh Lambo. Josh Lambo was actually a pretty good kicker. I liked him. During warmups, while he was still a member of the Jaguars, he alleged, the Tampa Bay Times, yes. He said he was in a lunch, but he was warming up before a game. I think it was an exhibition game. It was a preseason game for the Jaguars. He said, I was in the lunge position, left leg forward, right leg back. Urban Meyer, while I'm in that stretch position, comes up and says, hey, blank, make your blanking kicks. And he kicks me in the leg. And Lambeau said, quote, it certainly wasn't as hard as he could have done it, but it certainly wasn't a love tap. Truthfully, I'd register it as a 5 out of 10, which in the workplace, I don't care if it's football or not. The boss can't strike an employee. And for a second, I couldn't believe it actually happened. Part of my vulgarity, I said, don't you ever bleeping kick me again. And his response was, I'm the head coach. I'll kick you wherever the bleep I want. That was the last straw. That was the quote-unquote excuse, good one, for Shad Khan, the owner of the Jaguars, to say, that's enough. We got to get rid of this guy. Few days ago, I'm thinking, okay, Urban's going to finish the year and get fired, or resign, or just walk away. We see that all the time. No, middle of the night, you're gone. What it comes down to, we talked about Steph Curry and his incredible innate way that he has where he's incredibly self-aware. Urban is the complete opposite. You know how the Tim Tebow news is going to be received? But if we sign Colin Kaepernick, it could be a lot of a distraction. Tim Tebow would be quite a bit of distraction too, because Tim wasn't like that good in the NFL, and Kaepernick was for a while. I don't know. That's another discussion for another day. But you got that. You got the fact that he hired, of all the strength and conditioning coaches, he hired the racist one. He hired his staff, which he called them losers and what have you ever won, but he hired them. It's a whole big boat of hypocrisy, lack of self-awareness, and when it comes down to it, arrogance. That's Urban Meyer. Eventually, it comes down to, if everywhere you go, there's always drama. There's always a controversy. Well, who's the common denominator? It's not Utah, it's not Florida, it's not Ohio State, it's not the Jaguars. As dysfunctional as that may be, Urban had controversies in college. Eventually, it's on you. But probably the next 4 or 5 months, he'll get a job. Maybe Fox will hire him back. Maybe he'll replace Bob. I like Bob Stoops, by the way, with the Fox college football crew. I would have a big problem if they replaced him with Urban Meyer, but he'll have a job somewhere, ESPN, Fox, wherever, that does college football. Heck, maybe in a couple of years, he'll have another job again. He was a great college coach, great recruiter. This is why he didn't work in the NFL. And this is why, in many circles among players, he's not overly respected. And I wouldn't respect him either. And so that's my takeaway on Urban Meyer. That's what comes down to. You can't have a guy like that in the building. You can't. We talked about John Gruden, the cancer that he was to the Vegas Raiders. Hey, put Urban Meyer right next to him. You cannot create a toxic workplace environment. You think about a lot of great coaches that came into the NFL, look at the Jimmy Johnsons or the Tom Landrys or the Bill Walshes. Bill Walsh, I consider the greatest coach of all time. It was kind of rocky when they started. But they didn't lose the locker room. They didn't lose the 49ers or the Cowboys, respectively. Belichick went 5-11 his first year at New England, but he didn't lose the locker room. And that's really, really key. You can lose games. You cannot lose a locker room. Urban lost the locker room probably in the offseason before he coached a game, which is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But that's what it comes down to. Steph Curry is, he revolutionized the game of basketball, how it's played, coached, and analyzed. And Urban Meyer is, as my next guest has referred to him as, this week's dummy of the week. And with that, you might have a pretty good idea at this point with who's coming on the show. I've waited a long time for this. He's a Mets fan. They're looking for a new manager right now. He's got a specific name in mind, which we will get to. He's a Lakers fan. See how they've been discussing possibly trading Russell Westbrook, and it took a game-winning shot to beat the Luka Doncic-less Mavs. We'll get to that as well. He's also a Dallas Cowboys fan. He and I strongly disagree on their starting quarterback. So with that, would you please welcome back to Carving It Up? It is the man. It is the myth. It is the legend. Barry Jr. 20 Carving It Up Live. Welcome back, my man. How you doing?
What's up, man? Can you hear me good?
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, man. It's great to be back, man. Great to be back on the show, especially. I always chime in on your show. You know that. I'm very proud of what you're doing, man. So, it's an honor to be on the show.
Yes, sir, man. It's great to have you back. We may have a comment here. Yeah, I mean, that's it's, you've been contributing to the show, obviously. You returned back to the podcasting world. Was it last Tuesday? I think it was last Tuesday.
Right.
The All Even podcast. Y'all check it out. For those out there who are living under a rock, tell the people out there about your show and about kind of what makes you unique among other podcasters.
Yeah, you could definitely check the show out, All Even Podcasts. It's always out on Tuesdays, Saturdays. That was my normal schedule. You can catch me on Instagram at All Even Podcast, Twitter at All Even Podcast. What makes me unique is that I have my own takes. I don't particularly sound like anybody else. And that's what I kind of like strive to accomplish. Sometimes, yes, it's a compliment to have somebody tell you, hey, you sound like this person. Hey, you sound like you can be the next this. But you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into that particular box, because then you'll just be a carbon copy. For years, Kobe Bryant was the carbon copy of MJ until he kind of had to break out of that. Whether good or bad in regards to how people viewed him, he was his own person. So, that's what you strive to be. I can say that you sound like a ton of people, Bryson, but you have your own style, your own delivery, and that's what's going to push you to the next level. So, my takes are unique. They're over the top sometimes. I'm very animated. So, I just have to be me, man.
That's it. And that's to me what makes your show special is you're completely authentic. You're not trying to BS around or try and be someone you're not. Like, you're all the way in. There's nothing I've never heard a podcaster, sports host on television, radio, who quite delivers it the way you do, and that's absolutely a compliment. Got a quick comment here from Darren Campbell. He says, Barry Grant Jr., woohoo! So happy to have him as a guest today. We love the All Even podcast here, absolutely. And
that's my guy, Darren, man. Shouts to Darren.
Absolutely, man.
He has a great show as well, so you guys got to check that out.
Yeah, I will, absolutely. So, all right, enough the pleasantries, man. Let's get into sports. So, I got to admit, man, your Los Angeles Lakers played the Mavericks last night. I tweeted that was the game of the year thus far.
Yeah.
I mean, the twists and turns you had. Every time I felt like the Lakers were going to pull away, here comes Dallas. Obviously, late in the game, you had the lucky bank shot by Kleba.
Oh, my goodness.
You had, just back and forth. Even Russell Westbrook hit a three for crying out loud. Of course, at the end of regulation, Ellington. I mean, it was back and forth. It was crazy. But the Lakers won it at the end with an Austin Reeves game winner. I believe they call him Hillbilly Mamba or Hillbilly Kobe or something like that. HBK, Hillbilly Kobe. But right now your Lakers are sitting around the 5-6 seed. They're on a little winning streak here. I didn't buy into the Lakers before the season started. I said this is a team that's going to be around the 4-5 seed. They're going to get bounced in the second round because of their lack of defense, the age of their roster, and frankly, they have a lot of guys that I simply don't trust come playoff time. I said LeBron was the only thing I liked about the team, to be completely honest with you. What's your take thus far on the Lakers kind of first, I guess, quarter, approaching a third of the way through the season, through this first part of the NBA season?
I mean, listen, what you just said in regards to your opinion is really kind of spot on for what we've seen early in the season, is that they don't really have an identity right now. We have a head coach that is a defensive oriented head coach. You have guys that don't fit his scheme in regards to defensive concepts. So for him, if you notice, he's holding on to a lot of guys that he quote unquote trusts from the championship year. Avery Bradley and Dwight Howard and these things, just to kind of get some type of normalcy to the lineup. But the problem with that is that he had so many different lineups instead of just going with Dwight in the starting lineup. He went with DeAndre Jordan for so long and it was terrible. But the thing with me is that what they said early on in the season, that it's going to take time, really is showing itself right now. For whoever thought the Lakers were going to be world beaters to start the season, they were wrong. The Lakers knew that it was going to take time. The players knew that it was going to take time. But for some people in the media or even some fans, they believe that, okay, you can be able to just 2K this thing. You can put this guy here, and all of a sudden you're going to go on a 15-game winning streak. That's not the way it works. Basketball is a process. Everything has to start to, make itself, kind of push through and kind of gel and all that stuff. And you're seeing it. They went from being middle of the road in regards to defensive efficiency to now they're in the top 10. So they're starting to play better defense. They're starting to understand how they're supposed to be able to play defensively, team defense, and they're starting to put it together, especially over the last 4 games.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I thought going into the season. I figured around early to mid-January, it may start to gel a little bit. But like I said, it was the age of the roster. It was now
Right.
to their credit, defensively, like you said, they have been better. But I would say my number one concern with this team was the starting point guard, and that's Russell Westbrook. And it's nothing against Russ. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the most talented players that we've ever seen dribble a basketball.
Right.
But when you look at his fit with LeBron, he's not a shooter. LeBron likes shooters. Did you see Wayne Ellington last night? LeBron kept going to him over and over. He kept trusting him, whether he was airballing, whether he was breaking shots. But ultimately, LeBron trusted him to make that last one
right
there at the end. So when I look at Russ, you're starting to hear the reports now. The Lakers might be talking to some teams about possibly trading him, saying that he hasn't bought into, cutting to the basket, which that was one of my criticisms of Russ as well. He's not good off the ball. He never has been. That's why the fit with Harden back in Houston, it worked at times, but it was still a little clunky because both guys got to have the ball. What's your take on Russell Westbrook? Do you think he will be a Laker for this entire season? And do you think he can maybe possibly fit once it's all said and done with LeBron James?
Okay, let me answer the last part first. Fit. He'll never fit. Listen, Dwayne Wade and LeBron James didn't fit. What happened with them is that Dwayne Wade took a back seat and he was willing to let LeBron run the show and find his spots and get comfortable. He's a very intelligent basketball player, so he was able to still be effective in different ways other than how he was effective prior to LeBron James being there. Russell Westbrook, as great as he is in regards to athletic talent, athletic ability, he's the most athletic point guard we've ever seen. Maybe we're going to be talking about Ja Morant in the next 5 years like that as well. But what I know about Russell Westbrook is that his basketball IQ is not that high. So when you put that into the entire scheme of things, I don't think he'll ever be a great fit because he doesn't see the game the way LeBron sees it. LeBron is going to have to make more sacrifices just to make him fit as little as he might fit. So it's not going to be ideal, but other players around him have to make the sacrifices rather than him having to do it, because he just doesn't have the IQ basketball-wise to actually make that type of adjustment.
Yeah, you're right. And to me, what was most concerning about what they were saying, it's not like they're asking Russ to be something that he's not. Like, it's not like they're saying, man, he's shooting sub 30 from three. Well, he's never been a great three-point shooter. So that's not, it's the fact that it's almost like he's not buying in. And I don't think that's a Frank Vogel problem.
No.
Like, I mean, you and I have talked back and forth. You've talked about Frank Vogel. I think my biggest issue with him is possibly the struggles with rotations, which you can go back to Indiana when he would play LeBron constantly in the postseason. I mean, that's really my biggest Frank Vogel criticism. But let's talk about one more guy before we move on. I know you've been harder on this man.
But before we go to that guy that we're talking about, let me go ahead and tell you who needs to wear the blame of this. I'm a big LeBron fan. I'm a big Laker fan. I love Rob Pelinka. I love how aggressive he is. The blame goes to the King, because a lot of times when you're the smartest person in the room, you will always believe that you can fix things. You can be able to change the narrative on whatever people are doubting. So everybody says that, oh, Russell Westbrook will never work in LA. Russell Westbrook will never win a championship. He'll never lead a team to a championship. Smartest guy in the room, who has the highest basketball IQ we've ever seen, LeBron James, says, I can fix him. I can be able to rehabilitate him. So instead of us getting a perfect fit in Buddy Hield, let's get Russell Westbrook, because I can be able to win a championship with him. And if I win a championship with Russell Westbrook, I am the greatest builder of teams. I am the GOAT, period. And that's the narrative. And you got to put the blame on his foot. You got to put the blame on Anthony Davis's foot. You got to put the blame on Rob Pelinka's foot, because they had multiple deals on the table and they chose door number 3. So that's the problem. Whatever happens this season, LeBron James is solely to blame.
And you can possibly go back to Cleveland. I mean, he signed guys like J.R. Smith and Tristan Thompson to deals that they absolutely never validated. And by the way, shout out to JR and getting a 4.0 GPA, going to college. Shout out to him. Got a comment here real quick from Daniel Ullman. He says, BG Jr., big bro, the best of the best, #, all even podcast. Yes, sir. You got your support here. Before I get into AD as well, there's somebody who wanted to be on the show. He is the host of Clutch Sports Talk. He's a good buddy of ours. It is Ryan Flowers joining Carving It Up Live.
What
is up, Ryan?
What's up, y'all? Hey, StreamYard support.
There's my guy. Right, there's my guy. There's my guy. Hi, Ryan. How you doing,
What's
man?
Up, brother, man? Hey, but man, I just wanted to take the time, man, to just wish you a welcome back, Barry, man. We missed you out there, man, and I know it's been a struggle.
Yes,
but,
sir.
I know we all live in different states and different time zones, but man, I know I speak for myself and even Bryson, we're here for you, man. And I know a lot of people out there as well are there for you too as well. But I just wanted to come on here and just let you know, man, that we care about you and that we're glad that you're back and doing your thing, man. We appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you, Ryan. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you, man.
Absolutely, brother.
Man, amen to everything you said right there, Ryan. So I want to get Ryan on for a couple topics here. So let's talk a little bit about that guy you're referring to, and that would be Anthony Davis. You have been a critic, to say the least, Barry, of Anthony Davis. This might be a dumb question because we see the numbers and we see the, I guess, lack of energy out there. But what has bothered you the most going back to last year when he showed up to the season not in shape after the shortened off season, and now coming into this year when he doesn't look like the same guy he was just 12 months ago, 14 months ago in the bubble in Orlando, Florida?
Oh, was that to me?
It's me.
To Barry, and then I'll go to you, Ryan.
Go ahead.
Honestly, the biggest thing is hubris. When you win and you feel, I remember I said this to Ryan when we won the championship, probably a couple months after. Somebody asked Anthony Davis, does he have anything left to prove? And the answer that he gave was no. So when you have a 27-year-old basketball player who's already been selected in the all-time All-75 team, he's won a championship, everybody's singing his praises for the time that he grew 7 inches and went from 6'2" to 6'10" overnight and became a worldwide sensation in regards to on the recruiting trail. Anthony Davis has believed his own hype. And we've all kind of believed it too, because we've seen all the great things that he's done in New Orleans. He comes to LA, he wins a championship, and everybody believes that that's who we're going to get for the next 5 or 6 years. Well, just like I said on my show, I said that it's like a guy that goes on a date with a girl. He puts on his best suit, cuts his hair, but underneath that stuff, he has holy undershirts and holy underwear, and probably he's a slob. Girl will never know that until she actually buys in, and then there's nothing to hide anymore. That's Anthony Davis. He was on his best behavior in the bubble because he had to be. He had to show people that he was durable. So he played through injury. He had to show people that his motor was a little higher because he's always had the notion of not having a high motor. He had to improve his outside jump shot because a lot of people used to say that he wasn't clutch in certain situations. So he showed you all the things that he's capable of doing. But once he got to that mountaintop, realized that I don't really have to work that hard anymore because I got the championship. Right. I'm here. Well, what I have to tell him and remind him that the worst place that you can win a championship is in Los Angeles, because it's never going to be celebrated like if you win a championship in Chicago, or if you win a championship in New York or anywhere else, because one title in LA means nothing. Nope. You have to at least get 2 or 3.
When's the next one?
Right. So if you have that mindset of you have nothing to prove, you're going to, first off, alienate the entire Laker fan base because they are watching you and they're going to criticize you. And this is why he's on Front Street right now, and people in the media, Charles Barkley, there's so many people that are noticing what I've been saying from day one, is that this guy has all the skill to be one of the best players we've ever seen, but he really doesn't have the drive, and he doesn't have the what do you say, the dog, the mentality to be that guy. Right. Because my last point, and then Ryan can go. We saw the Laker and Buck game. We saw 2 guys that are in probably the same mold. Giannis cannot hold a candle to Anthony Davis in regards to skill. Right. The only difference between those two is that Giannis will not give up, and he's going to continue to push and push and push, and he is a dog. Right. That was the difference in that game. That was the difference in these 2 athletes.
I agree. Totally agree.
What's up, Brian?
Anthony Davis is a punk right now. I mean, straight up. I mean, he's a punk. I mean, literally. You said everything that I was thinking. And in regards to the Giannis and him debate, like, if you think about their careers, they're a little bit different. Giannis, no one really thought about Giannis as a superstar player when he first came. I mean, he was a novelty. I got to see him live his first year in Summer League out here. And I was sitting next to a guy, and I was like, damn, this dude is big, man. Like, he can't shoot, can barely dribble, but he ran the court so well for a big man, the way he finished at the rim. And then progressively, you saw that he's gotten better. He dribbles a lot better now. His shooting has gone up tremendously since, I don't know, this what year is he in? Like 7th, 6th or 7th year?
7. This is year 9 for Giannis.
Yeah, year 9. Wow. Look at that. And
he's still getting better, right? And then you look at AD, he comes off the national championship, Kentucky, goes first round, first pick overall to New Orleans. I'm not saying he didn't work a lot, but he had some good years there, didn't really kind of get over the hump, needed to be traded to LA, comes to LA. Not only do you come to LA, you come to LA with LeBron, right? And then now you're looking at it, and he's like, well, LeBron's here, like, he'll help me carry the load. And LeBron had already grinded up until this point. Because honestly, LeBron didn't really need to come to LA to solidify his legacy. He just wanted to come to LA because it's LA. I mean, who doesn't want to live in LA?
Right.
You got the lifestyle, the environment is just different than Cleveland,
history.
right? history. So then he's thinking, well, if I tag along with him, my legacy will be raised up. And for a quick moment, it was there. Even though I'm a Laker fan, I'm a diehard Laker fan. Don't get me wrong. Been a Laker fan for a long time. I still just don't feel any way about that bubble championship. Like, to me, it just doesn't hit. And it's not because it was LeBron or whatever. It just seems like that whole team, to me now, they're busters. Like, that's how I feel. Like LeBron to me is a different LeBron. I don't think LeBron is still giving us the same amount of effort night in, night out, which, we know he does that. He's still great. Don't get me wrong. And I think some of that has worn off on Anthony Davis, who was supposed to be the heir apparent. And right now, the Lakers, to me, are in a quandary, because if he's the heir apparent, this guy doesn't look like an heir apparent. He looks like a not a mid-level NBA player, but just below a superstar, like an all-star type of guy. A guy, he'll get you buckets, but I don't know for a fact that when LeBron does call it quits, say in the next 2-3 years, right? Let's just say he plays 2-3 years. Is AD going to be the guy to help propel the Lakers or keep them going? Because this team right now is kind of like, it's not homegrown. It's all mercenaries at this point. And God rest his soul, Jerry Buss, Dr. Buss, that wasn't the formula when he was alive. Like, they used to bring him in, they grew him from within, and now with the son taking over, with Jeannie now in charge, it's just kind of like, well, we got to win, so let's just go out and see if we can stick some stuff together. Rob Pelinka, for what it's worth, he did bring the championship. He was able to get LeBron, which I don't know how he did that, but maybe he didn't really have to do much, because LeBron was like, well, I'm coming there anyway, bro. So it don't even matter.
Magic had more to do with that than
maybe Magic probably talked LeBron into that. But I think LeBron knew, he was like, you know what, man, like, I'm done here in Cleveland. I need to go to LA. I do want to bring my homie with me. So we'll play this first season. He got hurt, but I need to get AD here so I can kind of lighten the load. They win. They get lucky in a sense where COVID hit. They got to rest up. AD was able to play the full bubble. I don't think he missed any games in the bubble. Neither did LeBron, if I'm not mistaken. If it was more for precautionary reasons. But either way, they end up winning it. And then, we go into last season, a full season, injuries galore. I know injuries are going to occur. I get that. But I'm expecting Anthony Davis to pick up the pieces when LeBron isn't there. And as far as the season is concerned today, and I don't want to be hard on the guy because he is a talent, but you're right, Barry and Bryson. I was listening to you guys earlier. The guy, just to me, he's missing something, man. And I think it's too easy for him now. He's relaxed. He thinks that he has a championship. He can rest on his laurels. And if you know anyone from LA, and I'm from LA, born and raised, I mean, I got it tatted right here, LA, all day. Like, I represent LA. That's not enough, man. Like, we want more. Like, right. This ain't, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Like, they're happy for that. Laker fans around the world, we've had 2 3-peats, 2 dynasties within the last 20 years, 1 championship and a bubble against a depleted Miami team, a team that wasn't probably even supposed to even be there, really. Like, nah, man, like, we need more than that. So I think the Lakers are in trouble, and Anthony Davis is definitely partly to blame for this season that's going on. And I get it, they're winning some games now, but I don't care if you beat, the Kings or the who did they just beat the other night? The Magic. Who they play last? The Mavericks. Like, Mavericks, okay, maybe decent, but like, what do you do against the Suns? What are you doing against the Bucks? What are you doing against the Warriors? What are you doing against the Nets? Teams that are actually in contention. Then I'll start to maybe believe, or maybe kind of retract my thoughts and say, you know what, maybe this team can compete. But until then, LeBron, you could throw up 40 on the Magic. I don't really care. Like, to me, you should be doing that. That's what I'm saying. And Anthony Davis too. You should be throwing up 24, 15, and 10 on the Bucks, or excuse me, on the Magic or any other weak team like that. Until I can see them do that, then I really are going to sit here and say, you know what, they're punks straight up.
you just to kind of make a point, and then Bryson, you can go. I think if we're gonna go back to the AD Giannis comparison, right? What is the difference between the two other than skill? It's how they got to the NBA.
Right. Yep.
You got one guy who was the
blue chipper
out of Kentucky, number 1 pick, right? You got the other guy that was a find, and nobody knew exactly what he was going to be. He had to make himself into an NBA player, reshape his body, dedicate himself to the weight room, and show people that he can be able to compete at the NBA level and prove himself. So you have two different guys that are, from two different sides of the tracks in regards to their NBA careers, not what they've, had to overcome off the court and growing up and stuff like that. I'm sure it's very similar, but their NBA trajectory has been very, very different, and you can see which one is more hungry, and you can see which one is kind of spoon-fed a little bit, silver spoon-fed.
Absolutely.
So, that's this can be a wake-up call for Anthony Davis, or he can just continue down the path that he's going down and just flush out, because that's what's going to happen eventually, guys. LA does not let up. If he continues to play this way, he's going to play himself out of LA.
100%. I think there's a lot to unpack with Anthony Davis. And one of the things is that y'all talk about the mentality and maybe even possibly the I don't know, the lack of motivation, so to speak. Like, this is why people always talk about, this is why we haven't had a back-to-back Super Bowl champion in like 15 years.
It's tough.
It is hard to get yourself motivated once again to go out and try and it's the old cliche. It's different being the hunted than the hunter.
Right.
I mean, it's a totally different mindset. And thus far, Anthony Davis has failed miserably at trying to recalibrate and recreate that mindset that
this is bottled water from 2010, bro. Like,
2010.
We don't play out here. Like, we out here. I'm a Laker fan. I want people to know. I don't want them thinking, oh, this guy's over here hating on. Like, no, I'm a Laker fan, but I keep it real. I keep it 100 every day. So I just want that people to know that I'm not out here on Front Street. Like, we keeping it real.
This is what we all three do. We all keep it real.
Exactly.
But I think with AD, and I was telling Barry the other day, and I may have told you, Ryan, imagine if he had PJ Tucker's mindset.
Right.
If Anthony Davis, he might be the best player in the league.
Correct.
If he had that.
He could.
But it goes to the fact that PJ Tucker, had to go overseas, had to change himself, not just as a player, but as a man.
Had to fight.
Had to fight, and you see now he's in his mid to late 30s. He just was a huge contributor, even though he didn't score a lot of points for the Bucks last year. He was a major contributor to winning a championship. I don't think they could have done it without him.
No.
And so you look at this year and what he's doing in Miami, and so you look at that, and it's almost a little similar. I may have said this last season. It's awfully similar to when you had Kobe and you had Dwight Howard.
Yes.
Kobe's fading out of his prime. Maybe you can hand it to this guy who won 3 straight Defensive Player of the Year awards in Orlando. But like you said, there's only a certain few players that can handle the bright lights of LA on a consistent year-to-year basis. And, this is why I said to a certain degree, and I don't put asterisks next to championships. I don't do that. But
I would.
Do the Lakers win in 2020 if there is no COVID, if there's no pandemic, if there's no bubble?
Don't.
Maybe they do.
Maybe they do. We will never know, right?
Yeah,
we will never know.
It's hearsay.
It's a big what if. We got a few comments here before we move to our next topic. Let's see. Student of the game 225 says AD is soft like Charmin the toilet tissue.
Yes,
there you go.
Special.
He says AD is overrated. Peter Bishop says LeBron is 37 years old, and that is absolutely a factor.
Yeah.
Nets world. Nets are.
Listen. Shouts to Bishop. He is the only Nets fan that is a true Nets fan in my life. Like, he had season tickets for when they were at the Prudential Center. So he's a real Nets fan. I'm talking about going from Queens to Jersey every game. So shouts to Bishop. That's my guy.
Shout out to him, man.
Absolutely. Darren Campbell says, so fun to see the three of you together. Great text all day, man. That's what we do. That's what makes.
Appreciate that.
It's like when you put like Steph, Clay, and KD together.
Right.
It's like it makes the greatest team ever.
So who's KD? Is that me? Is that what you're trying to say?
That's a good question. We got to debate that another day. But that's a good point. Now let's move on before we get to what's that?
I said I'll be Clay.
I love Clay. Let's move before we get back to basketball, and we will absolutely talk about my Golden State Warriors. I'm not going to let y'all skate by and us.
I thought I was going to get out of here before we had to talk about Steph.
Us not touching on that. Let's shift to the National Football League, to a team that all three of us root for, and that would be the Dallas Cowboys.
Yes. Oh, yes.
They're sitting there at 9-4. They are going to win the NFC East.
Yes.
Their chance of winning the number 1 seed are slim to none. But hey, there's a possibility.
Chance.
Maybe they can move up to the 3 or even possibly the 2 seed, which would be huge. You don't want to play second place in the NFC West right at the gates in round one.
Right.
But a player that Ryan, you and I are lockstep in this one. Barry, you're not. Rayne Dakota Prescott.
Yes.
Now, this is a guy who, over the last few years, I've seen gradual, steady improvement from year to year to year. He had a little setback in year 2 in 2017.
Right.
After that,
Sophomore slump. It happens.
It happens, yeah. But he didn't play well against Washington. And even me, as the biggest Dak fan, I'll even put on my Dak hat right now.
Right.
He was garbage.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. He was trash. But not Urban. What's your take, Barry, on Dak Prescott? You said in your show yesterday, this isn't just a slump. This is just who Dak Prescott is. Do you think if the defense continues to play like this, Dak Prescott, if he turns around, can lead the Cowboys to, let's say, the NFC Championship game? Can he do that?
Yes, he can, because see, the thing is, people have to stop thinking about Dak Prescott as a top 5 quarterback.
Right.
He is not.
He's not.
He is not. It's possible that he can get there. He's still very young. Can he get there? I'm sure he has the intelligence to get there. He has all the intangibles. But right now, he is not a top 5 quarterback.
I agree.
If he's more like I've been saying for the past how long, we've had debates about this back and forth. He's more top 15 to me. He's not on the low end of 15. He's more 11,
10.
Something like that, outside of the top 10. That's in my opinion. If you have a great defense, if you have a coach that's going to call good plays and have good clock management, if you're going to have an offensive coordinator that doesn't get too cute in regards to how he play calls, you can have a deep run with this defense. There's only one other team in football right now that has a more ferocious line than the Dallas Cowboys, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs. Both defenses are playing stellar football right now, and if both defenses continue to play like this, both defenses and both teams can possibly be going to SoFi Stadium. That's the truth, because defense can get you to a championship. If you have quarterback play that is consistent, and if you got a guy that's behind center that is not turning the ball over. The problem with Dak Prescott is that he tends to make the same mistakes all the time. And when I see that, it's very troublesome to me. So that's why, if anybody hasn't listened to the show yet, they can definitely hear that take that I said that great quarterbacks, you can always look at their seasons. They start off great. Defenses have tape on them for the current season. They will make adjustments to whatever trends and whatever play calling and whatever that quarterback is showing you. Okay, they like to throw on this side of the field on third down. Let's try to do something else. So you'll start to see those great quarterbacks probably not have great games towards the middle and the middle of their season. But what the great quarterbacks do is that they adjust. They adjust to the adjustment. Dak Prescott is not adjusting. This is why I'm saying that it's not a slump, because you can go back 4 years and it's the same thing, is that he plays well, he starts off, then he has a slump, but he does not adjust. And that's what the great quarterbacks do. This is why Tom Brady, he can have a bad game or two, but you never see it last more than that, because he looks at tape. He's a maniac when it comes to studying film, and he makes the adjustment. Drew Brees did that. Peyton Manning does that. Aaron Rodgers does that. Hey, even Pat Mahomes does it. So Russell Wilson, the list goes on of all the great quarterbacks. Dak Prescott is not doing that, and this is what's so troublesome for the Dallas Cowboys, because if he cannot make the adjustments and clean up his game, they're not going to go deep into the playoffs. They'll be one and done, and that's it.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I love Dak Prescott. I mean, his story, I think, is why I pull so hard for him most of the time, I think.
Right.
But I do
Great
agree.
Story.
I do agree that he's not an elite quarterback. Like, I know that. Like, I'm not out here like, thinking that he's elite. He's good enough.
Right.
I think he's good enough. He's shown glimpses of greatness, and sometimes he can be elite. Like that first game against Tampa Bay. Like, I thought that was that to me, he set the bar so high that I think that he right now, this slump that he's going through, or this change that he's going through, it kind of has a lot of people down on him because of how great he started off the season, considering he had the leg problem, then the shoulder issue going into the season. And then so I still feel though he still has enough left for us to go out and get into the Super Bowl. And from what I've watched now, because I've actually, the last couple of weeks I've been watching more and more of their film. They're all 22. And from what I've seen on the offensive side of the ball, two things that stick out to me. Number one, we're not running the ball effectively the way we need to. Now Zeke isn't the same Zeke, and I've already told people that Zeke was not going to have a bounce back year. Like, we just know that.
Plus he's hurt.
He's hurt, but I still even think so. I don't think he would have been the Zeke that we knew from 2016, maybe 2017. Those years are behind him.
Yeah, that Zeke is gone. Yeah,
that Zeke is gone. He ain't coming back. He's still formidable because now he's a big back. He's a grinder. He can pound it.
And he's the best pickup of the blitz I've ever seen.
Good on third down.
He is amazing.
Excellent on third down and blitz pickup. So running the ball, we're kind of like we're not gashing people the way we used to. The other game, another thing I've noticed too, the play calling is not that detailed. I feel like from what I saw, especially the passing plays, it seems like Kellen Moore is just basing his calls off of, well, our guy's better than your guy,
right? So
we're gonna try to win those matchups every time. And
it's very cute, Ryan. It's very cute. That's the word I would use.
Right. And so sometimes you have to, as a play caller, and I'm saying I don't call plays in the NFL, but I've had duties in football as calling offensive plays. Sometimes you have to create things. You have to paint a certain picture. And yeah, at the end of the day, football is all about, any sport, it's about your guy against my guy or girl, whatever the case may be. But you can't run a whole game by saying, you know what, Cooper's going to win every matchup every single time, or CD's going to, you hope that they're going to win more often than not, but you have to set certain things up. And I think what's happening too is that we're waiting, especially with Dak, these routes are so long. He's holding on to the ball. He's padding it, hoping these guys will make a play. And then he either overthrows them or throws some weird throw that I'm like, who the heck are you throwing to?
Right.
I think it's a combination of all those things. I think they need to run the ball better. And our line, to me, they're not terrible, but they're not the same line. I mean, Smith is going to be out again this week. I mean, I love the guy, Hall of Famer. He's from LA. He's got to go. I mean, he's got to go straight up. I love the guy. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer.
He's great, but he's just not reliable. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly. And then Kellen Moore's got to look in the mirror too and say, you know what? Like, we got to mix it up. We have guys. You got to use CeeDee Lamb in different positions. Right. Mari's going to be on the outside. He's a man beater. Like, he's just going to beat man coverage all day. And I think we really missed him against Kansas City because I feel like he would have destroyed Kansas City if we had him. Right. But we didn't. Right. So that, so I'm not all the way convinced that it's all on Dak, because we've played pretty solid defenses the last couple weeks. I mean, you think back to the Kansas City game, right? Kansas City, that's a good defense. They're playing better than what a lot of people expected them. The Raiders defense, okay, that was kind of like, but we did hang up like with 30 points on them. We kind of got started slow or whatever. Then you go into New Orleans. That's a tough place to play. Their defense is not bad either. Washington's defense has been better as of late. And then you got this week, the Giants defense is no joke either. You can't look at the record. Their defense is playing well.
I agree.
They're playing well. So I think at the end of the day, I feel like at the end, Dak he has his clutch gene that I think it doesn't look pretty, but more often than not, he's going to try to get the job done. Luckily, though, the defense has been playing out of their mind, out of their pocket. And when as a Dallas Cowboy fan, can you say that the defense is like, I won't say elite, but at least a top 10, top 15 defense? And the way they get after the ball, and you saw that the other day with Neville Gallimore back in the lineup. I've been on this guy.
I love this guy
since college. I've been watching him at OU.
He's such a bull.
He's so strong at the point of contact. The way he pushes. I mean, he's a man. Like I'm a man. We're all men here, but he's like a grown man.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. And you see how you get him back in the fold. You get Randy Gregory, DeMarcus Lawrence is out there doing this thing, and then you got the Lion, the young
defensive player of the year, Ryan.
Defensive player of the year, hands down.
The linebacker.
The linebacker.
That's good. We're gonna use that.
And
I gotta give props to Dallas Cowboys fan. That's their line right there.
Oh,
the
right.
linebacker.
Okay. Yeah,
They're good. They're good.
And then we don't have to worry about Anthony Brown getting toasted.
Right.
Not so much, right? He got toasted against the Raiders. Some of those calls were questionable, whatever, right? For the most part, I haven't had to say, that was Anthony Brown again. And usually I have to say that every year. And then Diggs is having a great year. I don't think he's a lockdown corner. I think he's a ball hawk. So you put that all together. Dan Quinn calling a great defensive game this season. But in regards to Dak itself, he's not the type of dude that's going to just win it on his own. And I know that. I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, he's going to win us a championship. It's like only one guy in the league that can do that right now. Maybe two, and not even two. I would say one, and that's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is literally the only quarterback right now, in my estimation, that can just put a team on his back and get them to the Super Bowl. Tom Brady, even though he is the GOAT, he does need a lot of help. He still needs a lot of help. And just like any other quarterback. So as far as Dak, though, he's not elite, but he is in my top 10. He does still need to clean some things up. He needs to work on his mechanics. And he just needs to just play a little bit better because you're getting the money. And I know a lot of people were on his head for the money. And I wasn't really, because at the end of the day, there was a market for it. And as a player, you got to take the money. So I understand that. And that's why I never look at the money as an issue. But some people will say, well, you're getting paid this amount of money, we expect X, Y, and Z. So, but I think he can definitely take us to where we need to go. But it's going to have to be a team effort overall. And he's not the guy that's just going to go out there. And a lot of guys can't do it. Like I just said, a lot of guys can't just go out there and put the team on their back. So I don't know.
Yep.
No, I mean, the thing with Dak for me is this, and I feel like that opening night game, I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Tampa and see that game where he threw 58 times. I feel like we're going to kind of see that the rest of the season, because obviously Tony Pollard's got the torn plantar fascia.
Yep.
Zeke is clearly not himself. I said they should have rested him against the Saints on that Thursday night. They weren't going to need him. They played him barely at all. I mean, they were giving Corey Clement carries late in the game. They even gave that guy, I forgot his name, wore the goggles and the contacts on Hard Knocks.
Oh,
they were giving him carries. And so the thing with Dak is, I've seen him be able to do it, although it was not at a win. When he left the field, they had the lead with a minute and a half left.
Right.
The problem is you're kicking the ball back to Tom Brady.
Right.
But I've seen him against an elite team this year. Heck, maybe even against two elite teams where not everything's going your way. The defense isn't playing great. I mean, look at that New England Patriots game. Yeah. That is a big time defense. Dak absolutely shredded
big time throws too.
Big time throws. I thought he made some.
The one to Cedric Wilson that kind of kept the drive
on
going.
Fourth down. Yes.
I mean, that's a grown throw. I mean,
he can make those.
He can
make those. Yeah.
It's his consistency with him.
Sure, but that's an absolute fair criticism. My thing is, if he keeps you in the game, if he's got the ball with 2 minutes left, I'm good. Yeah. I feel like you ain't got nothing to worry about. And I feel like that, at the very least, that, along with the numbers, does elevate him into the category of elite. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not Tom Brady. He's probably not Patrick Mahomes or even Josh Allen. But
it just makes things harder than what it has to be. That's when I watch him, it's like, oh, dude, like, how can you, like, why is that so hard for you to throw 10 yards? Why does it look like you're struggling where other guys you're saying, like you said, Mahomes, it's so easy. So I think that's another thing too that you have to kind of take into consideration. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. Can he win a Super Bowl with this team? I think absolutely. I think the way the defense is playing, Micah Parsons, like I said, I think he's Defensive Player of the Year.
MVP.
I mean, he is absolutely taking games over. He's changed. What's that?
I said he's the MVP of the league. No, I'm just kidding.
No, he's not the MVP of the league. That's Brady.
That's TB.
That's TB12. But you know, when you look at how he's played, obviously Jerry Jones blaming receivers. I don't think that's what it is. I don't think it's a receiver problem. No. But listen, I think Dak can win a Super Bowl. I think Barry, you and I got a bet. I think he's going to get to the NFC Championship game. You know, I think they can get to the 2 or 3 seed. I don't think they'll finish at 4. I think that'll probably be either Arizona or the Rams, to be honest with you.
I agree.
Regardless who wins the division, because Dallas has the tiebreaker over Green Bay. Green Bay's just got to lose one time. Now Dallas would have to win out, but that's not a ton of things that would need to happen.
The Cardinals, next week Sunday too.
a few weeks from now. Yes,
Yeah.
they do play Arizona, and that game actually got rescheduled to the America's Game of the Week on Fox.
Oh, I didn't
yes.
know that.
Oh, yes.
I hope I don't get
So,
copyrighted
so,
for that.
so day after Christmas, right? So we're talking about the 26th. The Cowboys will play Sunday night. Is that what it is?
That's
No,
right.
it's gonna be the Fox game.
The Fox game.
on
Fox game of the week.
4:30.
I thought it was Sunday
Eastern.
night football. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's still good, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it'll be fun. So before we move on, got a little bit of New York Mets to talk about with Barry. He's a big Mets fan. So what better way to do it than to bring on the host of the Metropolitan Report? It is Alfred Parsar Jr. joining Carving Up Live. And no, he's not be on the show on Friday, Barry. He's on the show today.
Hey, you know what? You pulled it over me, man. You tricked me. I don't like being tricked. And Alfred, I talked to you today. How dare you not tell me that you were going to be on the show today? How dare you?
You're mute. Yeah, hold on. Let me unmute you. Hold on. Here we go.
Yeah, there we go. Good.
There we
Glad
go.
to be here. Ryan, what's up, my brother?
What's up, Alfred?
Glad to see you, Barry. Glad to see you back, man.
Thank you, sir.
Can't tell you everything, you know.
No, you should. You should. It's in your contract. You should.
Now, I got to throw this out there. So the New York Mets are looking for a new manager. Buck Showalter has been at the top of your list, Barry. You've been very vocal about that on your show and on social media.
Yeah.
For those of you for those out there that haven't caught his take, what do you think can make Buck Showalter a great manager with the Mets, and can where's the ceiling on where he can lift this team? Because it's not devoid of talent. We know that for sure. We saw what Lindor did towards the end. What do you think?
Well, first off, the thing with Buck Showalter is that he knows the New York market. He's coached here before. He coached the Yankees. He coached the Yankees at a point where the Yankees were one of the, if not the best team in baseball before the strike. You know, we were on a collision course, Yankees Expos in the World Series, and then we got no more baseball. So this is not a guy that doesn't know the New York market. He also, he coached the Diamondbacks, and he actually won 100 games before the next season. Things kind of went awry and things went bad. He got fired, and then guess what? 2001, they win the World Series. So it's not the fact that he can't manage. It's never been the fact that he can't manage. Is that sometimes people want to go a different way. Sometimes people want to, I guess, go, have another voice in the locker room or whatever it is, and then he ends up leaving, and then somebody else benefits from all the stuff that he put in. So Buck Showalter, he's well prepared. He knows the game. He's very smart. He always gives the eye test to his players. Okay, he knows how to rest them. He knows what guys need more at bats. He doesn't tax his bullpen. He knows he just has a great feel for the game. Right. And he turns teams around quickly. When Buck Showalter gets there, you win. You're not saying you're going to win a World Series, but you're going to win some games. You're going to win a lot of games. So the knack on him is that, he doesn't really agree with analytics. It's not the fact that he doesn't agree with analytics. He's just a smart man that knows baseball. So if he doesn't need it, then he doesn't need it. But I'm sure he's going to be able to take the considerations in regards to what people to use, what optimum lineups to be able to work with. He'll take that under consideration and then go from there. But he's not going to be forced into doing things analytically, because if you're going to hire Buck Showalter, you hire him to be the manager and you get out of his way, because he knows the game, he understands the game, and he can be able to take pressure off his star players when things are not going well. You can put the blame on him instead of criticizing the players. So he understands how to be a manager, especially in a big market. And when you have two of the best pitchers in baseball in your rotation, and you have good role players, and you have superstar shortstops in Lindor, this is the guy that's going to be able to put all of that stuff together. The last time the Mets were good, we had an experienced manager leading the way, Terry Collins. That's what you need. You don't need first-time managers. Yes, it can be able to work out at times, but you need somebody that's been there before and understands the New York market. Buck checks all the boxes.
What about you, Alfred?
I like Buck Showalter, and I'll tell you why. As far as a guy who doesn't respect analytics, Buck Showalter is a veteran. We saw what veterans can do when they come out of retirement. We saw what Tony La Russa did for the White Sox this year. old school, and Tony La Russa is as old school comes, whether you agree or disagree with his tactics about his players getting thrown at. I mean, Buck Showalter is again, like Barry said, he's coached in New York. The only knock on Buck Showalter is the last time he was a big league manager, the Orioles didn't amount to much. But other than that, the guy's got experience. The last two managers the Mets had were both first-time managers when they were hired, Mickey Callaway and Rojas. And again, Buck Showalter's just been around. He's gonna know how to coach veterans. And when one of your aces, when Max Scherzer, because yes, Max Scherzer is gonna be number 2 in this rotation this year,
Right.
but he's an ace. If he goes to any other team, he's an ace.
Absolutely.
So when your ace goes to management and says, "Get me this guy," you go and get that guy. So, like,
Yeah.
and again, guy knows how to handle the market. He's a guy who, mounds of experience. He's probably taught and coached and remembered and forgot more baseball than all 4 of us know, and probably most of the majors know. So it's a good hire. I can't think of anybody else I'd rather give the job to.
You talk about the ability to handle the rotation. You're talking about, again, a team that still does have Francisco Lindor. Obviously, they added, I'm trying to remember, didn't they add Starling Castro as well?
No, Starling Marte.
Starling Marte. Sorry, I get the Castro and Marte mixed up. Added Starling Marte.
Seager. Didn't they get Seager too?
No, Starling Marte, Mark Canha, and what Escobar.
What did they get from the Dodgers? They got somebody from the Dodgers.
I think
too.
Seattle. No, Seattle. Who got
Scherzer.
Seager? What's that?
Seager went to Texas.
Oh,
Texas. Yeah, the Rangers. Yeah, he signed a big deal there.
That's right.
So, but no, free agent offseason this year was crazy. But like you said, I do think I do think as far as the let's see, Barry, you want me to remove you real quick from the stream here? Okay. So take Barry off for just a second. To me, what makes a great baseball roster, and to me, you could be overcorrecting a little bit with a Buck Showalter, and I think he's an excellent manager. But oftentimes what you do see is when you've got a guy like Luis Rojas who is relying on analytics, a lot of the managers these days are, you could bring a guy in Buck who knows the game more than some of the younger guys, but in the same breath, when he does need to rely on it at least a little bit, see, I'm not anti-analytics. I think you should use them, but I just don't think you should rely on them. My concern about Buck is he won't rely on them at all. That's kind of my thing.
All right. So as a guy who spent a great majority of time at Citi Field this season, I don't look into analytics because basically to me what analytics is, and this is just my opinion, I could be wrong. Analytics, all right. So, when this guy walks up, like Lindor, for example, he has a X amount of percentage to smack this ball in right field when he bats from the left side. So it's like, I don't play in analytics, or when this guy comes in the 7th inning or later, he's prone to give up a run. I don't believe in any of that. So Buck Showalter, like I said, he's an old school manager. And here's another thing: the Mets have a bunch of combustible elements as far as their personalities. I don't know if the people out there that are listening to this remember. Jeff McNeil and Francisco Lindor got into a fight in the tunnel.
They did.
And Rojas tried to cover it up. Oh, no, they saw a raccoon or a rat or whatever it was. And I'm just like, why can't you just say that your shortstop and second baseman got into a fight? Now, mind you, Javier Baez is gone. He went to Detroit. Are you really going to put Jeff McNeil back in left field? No, you're going to move him to second base where he's most comfortable. You got to handle Scherzer. Scherzer's never been a number 2 anywhere he's ever gone, not since probably his rookie season. Is he going to be okay not being the go-to guy? Is he going to be okay not being the opening day starter? So it's a lot of personality he has to deal with. Who would you rather deal with? Buck Showalter's handled personalities in his day. What was this guy when he managed the Yankees? The guy, I think his name was Mel Allen, guy who played for the Yankees in the early 90s, ended up, he's in prison now for sexual assault, but he was one of the worst teammates you could have ever had. Made Bernie Williams cry in the locker room due to rookie hazing, and Buck Showalter ran him right out of the organization. So, Buck Showalter has been known to be a disciplinarian. He doesn't play any of these types of games. And again, old school guy with an old school mind. And if you look around the majors, If you look at all the teams that made the playoffs this season or the successful teams, most of them had the old school managers. So,
no, you're right. I mean, your point is more of sort of the like you said, the disciplinarian, but holding guys accountable, which is what previous Mets managers in the last couple decades maybe haven't been quite as good at.
Because think about it, Bryson. If Buck Showalter managed this team last season, things like Javi Baez and Francisco Lindor booing the fans and thumbing them down would have never happened. You know, McNeil and Lindor getting into a fight in the tunnel in between innings would have never happened. So that's just my viewpoint on it. Because if you look around the majors and other teams that had old school managers, none of those shenanigans went on.
You're right. I mean, this didn't happen really with the Astros or with the White Sox or with
Astros had Dusty Baker, the White Sox had La Russa. So
veteran manager. I mean, that's the thing. Barry had to hop off for a second. Hopefully we can get him back on soon. We've got, I don't know if Barry can hear us. This might be a mistake me saying this, but we have a couple of more guests to bring on to hopefully surprise Barry. So I don't know if he can hear every word I'm saying. But the point is, I think when you look at the Mets, I think Buck could be a good fit for that reason. My thing is you don't overcompensate. I've heard the analogy before, like if you bring in, like say you're in a relationship and your girlfriend or your boyfriend, if you're a guy, girl, if they're one way and maybe it kind of start to drive you a little bit crazy towards the end, you went to the exact opposite with your next relationship and then you overcompensate and you're back to square one. So, I mean, that's the thing, hopefully, I mean, listen, I want the Mets to be relevant. I think if you have two elite New York teams in the biggest media market in the country, I think it's good for baseball. I think it's, especially the fact, like, we can act like the Yankees are they are the gold standard of baseball, but let's be real, they haven't won a championship in 12 years.
Yep.
So, I mean, the Mets have been to a World Series more recently than the Yankees, if you guys out there can believe that. So, but that's what it ultimately comes down to. Give me a thumbs up, Barry, if you're ready to come back on. All right, let's bring Barry back into the stream right here. Let's move on for just a quick second. If he's available to go, we've actually got a Yankees fan in the building. Do you know who I'm talking about? Possibly?
Of course I do. Of course I do.
It is Mike Guido carving it up live to surprise Barry Grant Jr. Mike, take.
I was not expecting Mike Guido. I was expecting John Rivera. But go ahead. Yeah. This is fun.
Hey, buddy.
Hi.
First of all, I just want to say this. This is, Alfred, it's good to see you again. Bryson, finally, it's good to be back on the show since I rated the NBA draft show. It's been, it's been a while.
Yeah, I remember that.
Which I hope we do again, that was a blast for me. Barry, it's great to have you back, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
And you and I have talked on the phone a couple of times, since your disappearance. And there were some times where I really worried about you. So I'm really glad that you're back. And the sports world needed it because, quite frankly, I don't trust anybody else anymore. So I'm glad you're still around.
Yeah, I appreciate you, buddy. Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
And the Yankees are still the gold standard of.
Oh, come on! Just
don't say that. No. Here's a great thing. We got 3 Yankee haters on this show. We got 2 Mets fans. We got a Red Sox fan. So if it sounds like we're ganging up on you, Mike, I'm sorry.
All I'm going to say, sorry, Bryson, before this continues. 2 weeks before the season ended, you guys came out in a press release and said that you were parting ways with your manager. And then like 3 weeks later, oh yeah, we signed him to a 3-year extension.
They're confused.
I know.
They're confused.
I know. Look, I would be lying if I didn't say that I was disappointed, but I am. As far as the Mets go, I think they've absolutely destroyed this offseason so far. They have had an unbelievable offseason.
Yeah.
Okay. Starling Marte is a great I honestly I think Starling Marte is the better signing of any of them, including Max Scherzer. I think that's a full-blown lineup changer. You put him in the 1 or the 2 slot, and it gives you some more flexibility with a lot of these guys in this lineup. It gives you a true center fielder that you guys haven't had in a number of years.
Yep.
I mean, I think this is a great sign. If he can go back to, again, what he was last year where he hit over 300 and, this is a borderline star player that you guys got for a bargain. This is not a bad contract at all. And again, as far as everything else, Eduardo Escobar is, I think,
the big one,
going to go down as one of the better value signings of the entire offseason. Not only does
that one's my favorite, Mike.
He's my favorite too.
That one's my
that
favorite.
guy can hit 300 with 30 home runs. I mean, it's not like this is a guy that's a scrub.
Right.
Eduardo Escobar can play everywhere and hit everywhere. It's
utility, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You guys have done incredibly well. And of course, Max Scherzer. I mean, and I will say this as a Yankee fan, okay? And I love Garrett Cole. I really do. Garrett Cole is incredible as a Yankee, right? The Mets now have the two best pitchers in baseball. They just do. Okay.
Yeah, they do.
Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom are the two best pitchers, not only in New York, but they're the two best pitchers in baseball.
I agree.
And that's really, really scary.
Yeah.
So again, I think they still have a lot of work to do. They need a couple of bullpen arms. I think they still could use another bat. But as far as everything else is concerned, up until the lockout point, they have done probably better than anybody else this offseason.
And that's another big story is the lockout. And then that'll be interesting to see how that unfolds over the coming weeks and the coming months, possibly, to see when or if I hope I don't even have to ask this question. If, there will be a 2022 Major League Baseball season, you certainly hope the Players Association and the league would come to an agreement. I wanted to bring Mike Guido on for a second to talk a little bit. I'm going to shift back to the NBA for a little bit. I wish Ryan Flowers was here, but he had to bounce. So we appreciate Ryan for coming on the show. Obviously, big shout out to him. But I want to shift back to the NBA for Mike Guido's sake, because he's a guest on the show. We don't get to have him on here very often, so it's always great when we have him on. Let's talk about the team that's on your shirt right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers. They, to me, have been arguably the shock of the NBA.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I mean, I thought this was going to be a team. I'm trying to, let me see if I still have the graphic for where I had them this season. So there's my Eastern Conference standings. I had Cleveland right at 15. Wow. I had them last.
Dead last.
Dead last. And right now, as it stands, pulling up the standings right now, they are sitting in as the 4 seed. So if the season ended today, the Cleveland Cavaliers would have home court advantage in a first-round series. It's kind of like the New York Knicks last year, if you really think about it.
Right.
Mike, what has the roster works? What has shocked you about this Cavs team and this just complete 180 from the last few years since LeBron left?
Well, Barry was on the phone with me a couple of nights ago, and him and I were talking, and we briefly got into how good the Cavs are because of, my hardcore fandom for them. And he's like, "You owe me an apology." And I said, "Why do I owe you an apology? What are you talking?" And he's like, "Because I told you Evan Mobley was the best player in the draft, Mike." Like, that's what
he did.
Says.
He called it.
So I think the thing that shocks me the most, honestly, is how well they're playing without what we thought in the preseason was their best player. We thought Colin Sexton was their best player.
Right.
And I'm not even sure he's their third best player. I mean, Evan Mobley is clearly the rookie of the year. I thought it was going to take him a little bit of time to develop, but he's developing way faster than I thought he would. And Darius Garland is, over the last number of weeks, he's averaging like 25 points and 7 assists. I mean, these guys are really learning how to play. And for the first time since I've been a fan of them, I actually have faith in a young core without LeBron James, right? Because when they had Kyrie Irving drafted number 1 overall and they drafted Dion Waiters, and I actually felt like there was going to be something brewing there, sort of like a Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum type, development. But it never really worked out, right? LeBron came in, they never had a full chance to develop. Tristan Thompson, all those guys. This feels like a chance where, they have, in my opinion, they have the best defensive front court in the NBA with Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen. There's nobody scoring inside on those guys. There just isn't. And as far as scoring is concerned, I think adding Lauri Markkanen has been brilliant. Kevin Love has played very well for them recently. And like I said, Darius Garland is finally starting to develop. He's starting to hit shots. He's getting creative. I mean, I don't know if you've ever actually sat down and watched the Cavs play. I mean, Darius Garland finds really creative ways to create space for himself and score. So they're a very exciting team to watch. Now, do I think that they're not in with Milwaukee? They're not going to compete with Brooklyn. They're not are they in the final contender teams? No. But at this point in the year, I would not put it past the Cavs that they could win a playoff series. I think they can win a playoff series and get bounced quickly after that. But, I'm very excited. This is a very cool season for me.
Well, there's a lot to be excited about. And the only reason I wouldn't have them winning a playoff series, I mean, experience and veteran leadership in the playoffs does matter. It not to the degree of, say, a certain team in Los Angeles that is really old, but you do want kind of that mix of young guys and veterans, which the Cavs obviously have Kevin Love. That's their veteran guy, their veteran, key contributor. But then you got guys like Jared Allen, who had a freakish block last night.
He is amazing. He's been spectacular for the Cavs.
He is worth every penny that they gave
My
him.
Goodness.
He's so good. Because, again, and I know Barry likes this because I'm going to bring up his favorite player, Rudy Gobert.
Rudy Gobert.
Gobert gets paid a lot of money to play defense for the Utah Jazz, right?
Yeah.
Jared Allen gets a lot of money to play defense for the Cavs, but he can also drop 20, 25 on
his offensive game is coming along.
He's got a relatively good big man style offensive game. Right. And he's so athletic that he's faster than everybody else. He's longer than everybody else. It just works.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Not to mention he's a tenacious rebounder too.
Right.
And then he's had that since his Brooklyn days.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. I'm with y'all. I mean, when you look at Cleveland, they almost feel a little bit, and I don't think they'll have the drop off because of the young talent, because of the draft picks, because of the coaching. I don't think they're going to drop off quite like this team, but they're a little bit similar to last year's Knicks in a way. Came out of nowhere, nobody expected anything, and then once the Knicks got hit with some expectations, you see what they are. They're 12-16.
Right.
But I do think the Cavs have a good young core to build around guys like Garland, Allen, and Mobley. I wasn't sure if Mobley and Garland, or excuse me, Mobley and Jared Allen was even going to work, because you got two bigs maybe clogging the lane a little bit, but it's been perfect. It has worked masterfully.
Right, because, and like we said during the draft show, Bryson, we were saying that Evan Mobley is not a big. Like, he's not just a big. The guy's, I qualified Evan Mobley as like a 7-foot wingman that's not like Kevin Durant. Right.
Remember what I said, Mike? I said that this kid is the new model of what a big man is going to be in the next decade.
Yes.
Like, when you look at quarterback, right? Everybody looks at Lamar Jackson as the prototype. Evan Mobley is the prototype for the new NBA.
Right.
That's a kid that he's just a Swiss Army knife. You can be able to, it wouldn't shock me if, as he gets better skill-wise, he can be able to play the three, and how good he is and how athletic and how just wildly gifted he is, that he might be able to play small forward at some point in his career.
Well, that's the thing, is he puts the ball on the deck, he shoots, he can slash. I mean, and to be honest, as far as just overall defense is concerned, meaning playing on the interior and then playing on the perimeter, I think he's the best defender on their team.
Yeah.
Like, the guy is everywhere. I mean, I'm a Cowboy fan too, but I like an Evan Mobley a lot like how Micah Parsons is with the Cowboys. The guy's just everywhere.
Right.
He just is.
Right.
I'm with y'all. And when that Eastern Conference, what's interesting out East, it's very much like the AFC and the NFL, where it's not quite as top heavy as the Western Conferences per se, but the teams in the middle there are no joke. You got teams like Cleveland, teams like Philadelphia, which even without Simmons, they're a problem. You saw what, or at least I saw what Matisse Thybulle did to Steph Curry the other night in Philadelphia. So look, if the Cavs can hang on to that 4 seed, and it looks like, listen, things keep up, you can forget about the play-in. They'll just be in straight up.
Right.
I mean, this will be huge for their organization. This will be the first time that you can consider the Cleveland Cavaliers relevant outside of LeBron in a good 20, 30 years at least. I mean, it's
definitely 30.
They've got something without a question. And so, hopefully they can,
with Mobley and Allen both healthy, because there was that stretch where they were both hurt at the same time. and they had no interior presence, right? They were starting Dean Wade and Ed Davis, and like it didn't work.
Yeah.
But outside of that stretch, I mean, they've had one of the best records in the NBA. I mean, it's
Right.
not even, they lost like 5 straight with those guys both out. And if you take those games out and they go 3-2, I mean, you're talking they're at the same level as Chicago and Brooklyn, and they're in the Utah category. Like, they're among those teams.
Absolutely.
I agree with you. I got to try and do my best here, see if I can flex a little bit, because there's somebody in here who's favorite NBA team just so happens to have the best record in the NBA, but I don't know. That's none of my business.
Mm-hmm.
The Golden State Warriors, as I said, they're going to win the NBA championship. I called that in October. I'm going to start with you, Barry. What has surprised you the most about this Warriors team as far as their start? Steph, we know what he is. We know he's the greatest shooter of all time. He's, in my view, and you guys may have a problem with this, but I think he's the best player in the world right now. What do you think about Steph as far as how the other pieces, the Toscano Andersons, the Jordan Pooles, the obviously Kevon Looney's been there a while, the Gary Paytons and the Bielitsas, and how that's worked?
Let me first off and say Steph and KD neck and neck for best player in the NBA right now. I'm not gonna hate. I'm not gonna say that I'm not gonna say anything negative about Steph right now. Let him do his thing. He's all right. What I will say is that the one thing that has impressed me about Golden State is their player development. I've questioned their player development over the last 7 years. They even dating back to even, prior to the championships, because yes, you have Steph, yes, you have Clay, yes, you have Draymond. But outside of that, I didn't really see anything else. You got those 3 great players, and they're great, but I didn't see anything else. So I had to challenge what they were doing in regards to their development. Championship years, obviously, they don't have time to develop any young players. I still had the notion of they just didn't have the ability to do that. What they're showing right now is that they had the ability to be able to draft well, one, find guys in the G League, find second-round talents, and be able to develop the talent. What Jordan Poole is doing right now, shocking me, because I never saw that coming. I always looked at him as an inefficient basketball player. He didn't even shoot 40% his rookie season, and that's what I believe he would be going forward. Now, he's still a high-volume shooter, not really a great, percentage shooter, but what he brings to that team is a fearless attitude, and he knows his role. He attacks, and they allow him to be himself. Plus, they have a great defensive scheme. Everybody plays great team defense, and they're playing great basketball, man. I really can't. There's nothing I could be able to say about Golden State right now. There's no negative. The only thing that I could be able to say is, are they going to be able to continue this? Are they going to hit a rough patch? Because we all know basketball. Listen, you're going to go through your injuries. You're going to go through, probably a stretch where they're not playing so well. We haven't seen that yet. Maybe it's coming, but it doesn't matter. They've already shown that they have the ability to be good, be one of the best teams in the NBA, and possibly put themselves in line to win a championship. So I can't. They're not the Clippers. So I can't dog them right now. I can't do it.
I'll give you a little bit of credit there, Barry, because you've talked a lot of junk about the Warriors in the last 6 months, going back to last year. I remember, I'm going to have that soundbite ready for June when you said when Clay comes back, they'll be good, but they're not. They may get to the Western Conference Finals, but that's about it. We keep receipts here on the show. But you're honest. That's what I respect about you.
What I said wasn't wrong. They possibly will get to the Western Conference Finals and lose to the Lakers in 6. But that's neither here nor there. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Love a bet. Why don't we get a Chicago Bulls fan in here? Joining the show now is the co-host of the Fan Perspective podcast. It is John Rivera joining Carving It Up. John, how you doing, man?
The gang's all here. What's up, man?
What's up, fellas? What's up? Did you hear me?
Yes, sir.
We had a few connection issues with you there, but it's great to get you on, man.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, I'm just a little Christmas shopping. I hop on and welcome Mr. Barry Grant Jr. back to the
guys. I gotta step
world
out
of broadcasting.
John, I appreciate you. I'll step out for a little bit.
All right. So getting Barry off here just a second. He's got something to attend to. But you got the whole game together. We had to do it. We got a few comments here real quick while Barry's away. Grady says, I can see it now. LeBron part 3 in Cleveland. Would you be open to that, Mike?
Oh my God. Yeah. I actually think that there's a possibility that in like the next 2 or 3 years, maybe he doesn't play there, but he'll definitely retire there. He'll be one of those one day contract things.
Honorary contract.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, look, if he sees the young players there, now obviously by that point he'll be a lot closer to 40 than he is now at almost 37. But man, that could be a huge fit.
Imagine LeBron with that roster. I mean, that's a legit team. That's not like,
I mean, he drug J.R. Smith, Tristan Thompson, and a bunch of bums to the finals in 2018. I mean, I said, this is a team that has a ton of promise. So, hey, why not, Grady? Why not? Let's talk about your Bulls a little bit, John, because obviously you being a Bulls fan, you're optimistic. But I looked at this team and I was like, I don't see why they can't win a playoff series. And if they get the right matchup, maybe 2. What has impressed you the most about the Bulls? Obviously, right now they're having their COVID issues. They had to postpone a couple games. But once they're back, once they're fully healthy, how do you view the Chicago Bulls as a possible threat out east to possibly Brooklyn or even Milwaukee?
Yeah, I think we got a good chance of beating anybody any given night. I still think we need big man presence. Williams getting hurt early in the season, that kind of hurt us, man. Hurt us real bad. And so we're kind of small. But overall, like I said, I'm impressed with the team gelling so fast. Alonzo looking good. DeRozan, at least top 5 MVP candidate, at least talked about it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying the MVP, but at least in the top 5. And like I said, we got a good overall team. But like I said, we got to, get that bench together. But other than that, I think we can beat just about any team, any given night, though. Like, we're playing good, you know what I mean? So definitely happy, that my Chicago Bulls, after a couple of years, losing and stuff like that, are finally, had talent there and then just added to it. That's what great organizations do. We went for a great head coach. We changed our GM, so things are looking good. Things are looking good for us.
Absolutely, and defensively they're good. I knew Lonzo would be a perfect fit there, obviously with Zach LaVine. DeMar DeRozan was kind of the one where I was like, I don't know how will he and LaVine fit, and it's been pretty much seamless. Obviously, Caruso coming off the bench, we know what he brings on the defensive end of the floor, and then you have the size there. You have Vucevic. So the roster fits together. I'd listen today. I don't see why they can't get to an Eastern Conference Finals as long as they don't play Brooklyn or Milwaukee. If Brooklyn and Milwaukee play each other, say they're like, I don't know, 1-4, like, one of them struggles a little bit toward the end of the season, has some injuries, then, I don't see why you can't have a possible Chicago Bulls Eastern Conference Finals appearance. They've got the young talent. They've got the veterans. They've got, the stars like DeMar and Vucevic, and Lonzo's just getting better every year. So that works a lot.
Yeah, we definitely match up better with Brooklyn. Like, Milwaukee still is a little bigger than us and stuff like that, but I think we match up real good with Brooklyn right now. Kyrie isn't there yet, so between Harden and, KD, I think we match up good with them. So we'll definitely, I'm not saying we can beat them, but in the 7-game series, you'll never know,
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. You don't know. I mean, Brooklyn completely controlled Milwaukee until obviously Harden got hurt right at the gates, and then Kyrie went down. I think it was in Game 4, so that totally turned that series around. While you're in here, John, let's talk a little bit about your it's like a bad word at this point, the J word that plays in the NFL in East Rutherford, New Jersey. And I'm going to bring Alfred in this discussion as well, because he is also a long-suffering Jets fan. As a matter of fact, he actually works for the Jets. He shows up to MetLife every home game. I'm going to start with you, Alfred. It feels like just another Jets season, and I hate to say that, but your takeaway thus far in the first, 12, 13 games this season?
So first off, I want to say 2 things. Number one, for those of you who don't know, I'm the guy who, during TV timeouts, launches the T-shirt cannon from the sidelines into the stands. So that's number one. And on Sunday, there were a bunch of T-shirts that got thrown back on the field. Number 2, I told both John and Barry Grant on an episode of All Even Live that the Jets would not get more than 4 wins this season. And so far, I've been held correct, because we're only sitting at 3. technically we should only have 2 because nobody expected us to beat the Titans in overtime at that. My thoughts on the season so far. Zach Wilson should not be a starter in the NFL. Joe Flacco should have never been let go at the end of last season, because now look what they did. They went and traded for a player that they could have just kept. The Jets, the defense is rotten. Outside of CJ Mosley and Quinnen Williams, there's nothing on that defense to be proud about. The offense is just awful. I don't understand how they could expect to win. I mean, Elijah Moore has been great.
Yeah,
outside of Elijah Moore, though, Jamison Crowder is not the guy. Denzel Mims has been a bust. He was a guy when he was drafted. Everybody's like, "Oh, he's a steal. We got him in the 3rd round. He's gonna be a great talent." Hasn't done much. The running back situation between Michael Carter, Ty Johnson, and Tevin Coleman was also atrocious. There are Division III NCAA teams that are better than the New York Jets. I honestly, at this point, if I was Robert Saleh, I would sit Zach Wilson down the rest of the season and just play Mike White.
that I agree with. Absolutely. That I agree. Sit him down. Just say this tape, this whole rookie season, it's a wash. We get to review the film late in the season. Want to go ahead and bring, get Barry back in here and get John back here. I asked John about the Jets as well. John, what? I guess what's your takeaway on the Jets season as it's going to come to an end in a few weeks? Obviously, I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, but you guys playing the Buccaneers in a few weeks at home. So,
yeah.
What's your outlook on the Jets and on Zach Wilson?
I don't know. I gotta ask Alfred, is he really a Jets fan? First and foremost.
A fan and an employee. But am I not right? We don't even have 4 wins yet. I was told by the man in the red sweater at the bottom of the screen that I only picked 4 wins for the team so that when they surpass 4 wins, I could say, "I told you so." But no, I was being realistic.
But listen, before you continue, I got to say this. Barry's got to go. So, Barry, go and say what you want to say.
Nah, listen, man, I just want to tell everybody that, I appreciate all the support. Everybody here has reached out to me in my difficult time that I've been having over the last few months. So, I love all of you. You really know who your friends are and who your family is, and you guys have been, you guys have gone above and beyond what I expected. So, a lot of people have even reached out. I've gotten calls from hundreds of people telling me that I need to get back to doing my podcast, and I didn't know that a lot of people cared like that. So it's like, thank you for everybody that supports the show, who continues to support the show. There's a lot of great stuff on the horizon. Guido, Alfred, Bryson, we all know what's coming. So, that's gonna ramp up again shortly. So, there's a lot of stuff on the horizon. John, you my guy, Ryan Flowers, the guys at Dallas fan, Cowboys fan, Darren. There's so many people that I gotta, thank, and they know who they are. So, I just want to say that, and until next time, I'll be on here to talk bad about the Warriors at another point.
We'll see. Be on here, Instagram Live, the whole thing. But just before you go, Barry, I just want to say one last thing. Since Mike and Alfred and John and Ryan a little earlier got to say, you are somebody. I'll just go and say it for the whole world to hear. You are somebody I don't consider a friend. I consider like a brother. And I hate that you had to go through what you had to go through, and you kind of alluded to a little bit in the people that have reached out. Having your voice, having your show, the mix, there was a hole there. There was something that was kind of missing from all the craziness in sports that has happened over the past few months. So, listen, man, to have you back in here, this is why I wanted to get the group of guys together in one room, just to tell you what you mean to us, what you mean to the podcast community, your fans out there, and to the people even commenting in this on this YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter feed. So we appreciate you, brother, and I love you, man.
Nah, thank you very much, guys. Bryson, you already know what it is, man. Love you guys. Love you. And, I'll see y'all later. You know that. You'll hear from me later. So
there's no question. There's no question. All right. See ya, man. That was Barry Grant Jr., the man, the myth, the legend himself, the host of the All Even podcast. Again, I appreciate everybody coming out. Before we go, if you guys care to stop by for just a second, we've got a pretty big Thursday night game tonight. We've got the Los Angeles Chargers hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. And the winner of this game will be in first place, tied, possibly, if the Chargers win, will be in first place in that crowded AFC West. Kansas City, they got up to a 3-4 start. They've won 6 straight since then. They've completely turned their season around, especially defensively. But when you look at the Chargers, on the other hand, who are going to be missing Rashawn Slater, who's, as a rookie, arguably the best left tackle in football right off the bat, that's going to be huge. But Chris Jones also out for Kansas City. So that matchup's going to be very interesting to see on the interior for the Kansas City, or excuse me, the Chargers O-line and Kansas City's defensive line. So I think this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to come down to the wire. Kansas City's favored on the road, -3. Weather will not be a factor as the game's going to be at SoFi. So I'm going to go and put the score right now to kick off Week 15. I got the Chargers in upset tonight. I think the Chargers win this game 26-24. They get to first place in their division. Kansas City, I still think will win the division, but for the moment, the Chargers will take control. I feel like they feel like there's more of a sense of urgency than there is for Kansas City. Outside of when they play the Raiders, this offense is really clunky. They can't run the football. Mahomes has turned the ball over a little bit. It's playing a little too safe, kind of can't find the in-between from being reckless and then being somewhat of a game manager. So I've got the Chargers winning 26-24, and if anybody in here disagrees, please feel free to chime in.
I'm gonna roll with the hot hand, Bryson. The winners of 6 straight. I think they make it 7.
Okay.
Yeah,
same here.
No, go ahead, John. My
Go
bad.
ahead, Mike. Okay, I'll go. I got Kansas City staying hot. I can see them winning 33-27, man.
High scoring. Okay.
I don't know, Bryson. I'm with you. I think that not having Rashawn Slater is going to hurt a little bit. But Justin Herbert, 3 out of the last 4 games, has had a passer rating of over 115. So I think, listen, them being at home helps. Warm weather, I think, helps. And the Chargers, I think, are going to continue to roll a little bit. I think they're going to get one of these big divisional wins. Similar score. It's 27-23, 26-24. It'll be something along those lines. I'm going to take the Chargers too tonight.
All right, so we got a split right down the middle here. Me and Mike got almost at San Diego. I still can't really quite get used to that.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
We both got it's like Vegas. The Vegas Raiders sounds a little better than the LA Chargers, but still, even not saying Oakland sounds weird. But no, I mean Justin Herbert this season. What can you say? He's been unbelievable. I said going into that 2020 draft, I said if things play out the way I think they will, this is the best guy. He's big, strong. Arm, he can move, he's accurate, he's got the leadership intangibles, he's really smart, basically, and he's durable. Basically, any tangible, intangible you could possibly want in a quarterback, Justin Herbert's got it. And so you see this. He was outstanding last year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. He makes this magnificent climb to year 2. This is gonna be a guy that's gonna be making a lot of Pro Bowls. And who knows, maybe at some point, may play in a couple Super Bowls before it's all said and done. And I think there's also some MVPs in his future. So that's where I'm at. Grady's in the comments here. He says Kansas City 31-21. He says he likes the Chargers, but he's still not sold. I'm not sold on the Chargers as a championship team, but right now I'm not so certain I'm sold on Kansas City as a championship. Certainly, they're not the favorite in the AFC. That's New England. That's honestly that's kind of where it's at. And maybe if Tennessee gets Derrick Henry back, there's, in the NFL this season, I've never seen it more wide open where we don't have a perennial absolute, this is the favorite to win the title, to win the Super Bowl this season. That's what I think has made it so special. And I think for Mike, you and I being able to enjoy it as Cowboy fans has been kind of nice being right in the mix of things. But last question, then we'll get off here. I'll go around the table. Let's start with Alfred, then I'll go to John, then to Mike. As the favorite, I'm not talking about AFC or NFC. I'm talking about the National Football League as a whole, all 32 teams. Who is the favorite to hoist the Lombardi Trophy on February 13th?
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay. What's up, John?
My Super Bowl prediction from earlier in the year is to win it all. I got Green Bay.
Okay. All right, Mike.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with Alfred. Until somebody beats Tampa Bay, I can't go against them. As sick as it makes me, I think Tampa Bay is probably the favorite as of right now.
It's the greatest quarterback of all time.
Brady, Gronk, Lombardi, Lenny. Prior to
the world will be a better place when Tom Brady retires.
Stop it, Mike. Enjoy greatness while you have it, man.
Better place. It'll be a happier, better place, and all of us other peasant teams will finally have a chance to win a Super Bowl.
What's that looking like? 3 years, 4 years? What you think?
I know.
I'm gonna say about 10.
He'll play till he's 70.
He'll have the gray hair. He'll have the long beard.
I'll retire before he does.
That's gonna be crazy.
I got 3 years. I think 3 years.
I think he was retiring at 47. I've said that for about a year now. He's gonna retire after his 25th season. That's what my gut feeling tells me. He's at 22. You don't bet against this dude. You don't bet against him.
3 years. 3 years. Unless he feels like winning a championship and retiring.
I hope Tom Brady goes to the Super Bowl and he plays the Patriots and the Patriots embarrass him. That's what I hope.
So your team, Bill, your team Patriots in this.
Oh yeah, dude. I am all in on Bill Belichick and Mac Jones.
They're
the best.
We agree on Bill. We do not agree on Mac Jones, and that's another conversation I could talk about for the next 30 minutes if I had to. But
don't sleep on that offense. They're lethal because Evans, Godwin, and prior to faking COVID-19 vaccination proof, AB was cooking. So
he was, and we'll see. Maybe does he get cut? I mean, to me, what makes Tampa Bay so lethal? AB could get cut. He could stay. And it doesn't change their chances one iota.
Nope.
In my view.
Right.
But that's what's crazy, man. I appreciate y'all coming on the show to support Barry, celebrate Barry, being back in the podcast mix, being back in the sports talk mix. It's great to have him. It's great to have all of y'all in here, and Ryan Familiar, of course. Shout out to him. Mike, we got to have you back on the show to this NFL draft coming up. Defense heavy. That's what it's all about. So I'm looking forward to talking about that.
Alfred, we got 2 picks, man, in the top 10.
Yeah, but we'll probably blow it. We'll pick an offensive lineman first.
Nah, I think we're going defense, man. We're going with the kid from LSU, the cornerback, and then go from there. We need cornerbacks. We need cornerbacks for sure.
And we need a quarterback as well, hopefully in free agency.
You think so?
Yeah.
But that's why, before Barry came back in, but that's why I disagree. I think you got to play Zach and see what we got. You know what I mean? I give him another year. Definitely sign another veteran because that's where we went wrong, totally wrong, was not sign a veteran. How are we not going to have a veteran quarterback to mentor him, to be the backup? Nothing. We had Mike White, and that was it. Like, Mike White did not start an NFL game in the season. That was our worst mistake.
Joe Flacco should have never been shipped to the Eagles. The guy won the Super Bowl. Who better to learn from?
I agree, man. And he did decent for us last year as well, so I definitely agree that he should have been on the team. So
listen, future Jets #1 overall pick, Mr. George Karlaftis. I'm telling you right now.
I'm gonna remember this.
That's not a hot
guys. This is too much Jets talk. We talk about the relevant teams. We talk about the winning teams and the winning players. It's too much Jets. I'll talk about them briefly tomorrow. I don't even know who they play. When I make my predictions tomorrow at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific time. But appreciate all y'all joining. That is all the time we have for today's show. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. It helps the channel grow exponentially. So appreciate y'all coming on. Shout out to Barry. Shout out to Ryan. Have a great evening, everybody. See y'all tomorrow night. God bless you all.